Good afternoon, everybody. I hope that you are all doing well on this absolutely spectacularly beautiful day, this Saturday, August the 10th, 2024, on the beautiful Gulf Coast of where? Texas. That's right. All right, so what are we going to do today? Well, I'm going to talk about some stuff clearing up a few murky details. How does that sound? So I want to start with this very famous quote by Sir Walter Scott way back in 1808. He wrote this amazing narrative poem called Marmion. It's basically like a historical romance. It was a tale of Flodden Field, using the verse of 16th century Scotland and England. It was published in 1808, and basically it was this vehicle that Sir Walter Scott gave us the quote that drives me today, that inspires me today for this particular live stream. And that quote is, "Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive." It was a quote that came out of this narrative play, Marmion, that has basically been used throughout the decades, even centuries, to describe the destructive consequences of lies and the impact on people's lives. Now, what exactly am I referring to? Oh, if you've been on Twitter, you've seen the never-ending comments about Kamala Harris or Cammy or whatever her name is. I don't know how to pronounce it. She is our border czar. She is responsible for the mess that we see in Arizona and California and Texas. Here in Texas, we have no beds for foster kids. If CPS gets a call and we have to go out in the middle of the night to try to rescue some little kid who's not being, that's being attacked and assaulted in their own home, we don't have anywhere to put them. I've actually known of some of these kids being housed where? In hospitals. That if the child's injuries were sufficient, that we might have to keep them in the hospital long enough to finally try to find a safe placement for them. So when you hear people complaining about the border problem, and you hear people saying, oh my gosh, it's terrible, so many people coming into our country, they're going to take all of our Medicare and all of our Social Security money. Oh, no. We're not talking about they're going to create a problem in the future. That ain't what the problem is. The problem is we're having trouble right now, here, today. I mean, if your heartstrings are not warmed, if you're not horrified and saddened at the thought of a 12-year-old little girl being used and abused by two illegals, one of them with an ankle alarm, who both had already encountered the United States government, and they were just said, here, we're going to take your picture, and then we're going to give you an appearance date to come to one of our U.S. courts by this certain date, 2027. And then they were released into our country anyway. They didn't have a family with them. They didn't have children with them. There was no reason to keep them here, none. And within months of arriving, they raped and murdered a 12-year-old child in Houston, Texas, and then threw her off a bridge into the bayou where her body was found some 14 hours later floating, stripped of clothing. Does that bother you? If you're not worried about your own Social Security, are you a little worried about the kids in your neighborhood? I am. And I'm completely terrified at the thought that there will be a call to go and rescue some little kid who is being beaten within an inch of their life, and we have nowhere to house them because all of the foster care beds in Texas are being inhabited by children from other countries that don't speak English. And so we don't know where their parents are. We don't know how they got here. They're just found wandering in the streets down on the border, or even worse, abandoned out in the desert. It's not just Texas. It's Arizona. It's Southern California. And the people that are not admitting to this, you must ask, why? Why would you not want to take care of your own country? Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. A tale about the destructive consequences that lies among people in high places with power, and the impact that their lies can have on the little man's everyday life. So I was just looking at the polls, okay? And there's a page here that I want y'all to look at. So hold on, I got to share it. What do I do with it? Here it is. All right, hold on a second and let me share it. Share screen. What was I looking at? Well, here I was looking at Kamala Harris's favorability polls. I'm struggling a little bit to understand this phenomenon that we're seeing being reported by our trustworthy mainstream media. They're asking us to believe, okay, I just want you to stay with me a minute on this. They're asking us to believe that Donald Trump's base support, these are the people that when he got arrested and they released his mugshot, they made t-shirts and then began wearing them, saying, I would much rather vote for a felon than fill in the blank, whatever choice. These are people that went to the streets of New York day after day after day as they were going through this curious trial where they didn't have to the jury did not have to unanimously agree. And it was a multiple choice question on exactly which crime that Trump committed. I'm not kidding. And then if you thought as a juror that he committed either crime A or crime B or crime C or crime D, then you got to choose whether he did something wrong to break the law. And again, the jury instruction said, oh, don't worry, guys, you don't have to be unanimous in your choice. Well, the United States Supreme Court jumped on that. You want to know why? Because our rule of law does in fact say a verdict has to be a unanimous agreement. For a guilty verdict has to be unanimous agreement. So it's completely going to be turned over. Like all the law nerds, all the powers that be, they get it. You can't have a multiple choice crime. You can't have some jurors saying, well, maybe it was this one. No, I think it was this one. So beyond that, people stood in the streets day after day after day and never wavered in their support of Donald Trump. And there were some conservatives who said, oh, we can't have this. We can't have our candidate being someone who's got all these legal problems. We need to we need to have a different candidate. We need to get busy, and I don't know, let's do Marco Rubio or any number of other great conservatives. We need a different candidate. But Donald Trump's base never wavers. They're not leaving him. They love the guy. All right. Now, I think, it's my opinion, one of the reasons why they stick so hard and true is because they feel abandoned by this country. They feel like they've done their part. They serve time in the military, or they work hard and try to make money. And every month they fall further and further behind. And then they sit and they watch their money get sent to other countries, securing the other countries' borders. And they're pissed about it. They say, wait a minute, why are you using my tax dollars? I'm falling far behind. I can't feed my damn kids, but you're going to take my tax money. You're going to send it to the Ukraine so that the Ukraine can protect their borders? But what about the borders in the United States of America? Like, why don't we use our tax money to keep our borders nice and secure? So they feel violated. This is not a secret to Barack Obama. I do have serious misgivings about the IQ of Kamala Harris. But Barack Obama, he's a brilliant guy. Bill Clinton, brilliant. There's people within the Democrat Party. These are not all low IQ people. They get it. They know that this group of people, that half of the nation, they know that their love for Donald Trump, their support of Donald Trump, is because they feel abandoned by their country. And Donald Trump is the only one that seems to recognize that or give a damn. And because he seems to care, because when he was president before, he delivered on every one of his campaign promises. They ain't never seen that before in a politician. This is new for middle-class America. We've got half of this nation that will not go vote because they think that every single politician is a liar and full of it, both parties. So why are they going to take their time out of the day to go cast a vote for someone who's going to lie to their face, promise crap that they have no intention of delivering? Isn't that right, Dan Crenshaw? Oh, Danny boy. Oh, yeah. Dan Crenshaw. He was there for the man. He was there to help Americans. He was homeless. That man was living on the good graces of his who? Father-in-law. And guess who has gotten stabbed in the back and screwed by Dan Crenshaw? That's right. His daddy-in-law. The man that gave him a place to live when he was homeless. The man who let him campaign out of his house up in the Woodlands. And old Danny boy finally made it big, his name in lights. And they were clamoring, weren't they, Danny? They were clamoring to give you their money. Come on, Dan, you scratch our back, we'll scratch your back. It's going to be great. And old Crenshaw took him up on it, didn't you, Dan? Well, Dan's not the only one in Washington, D.C. that's done that. It's primarily the reason why people that support Donald Trump love Donald Trump because he didn't take the money, because he didn't do their bidding. In fact, Donald Trump seems to be the only politician in the last 20 or 30 years that seems to be impervious to their corrupt money grubbing or promises to scratch his back or threats that they're going to destroy his life. And when that didn't work, then they said, well, okay, so we'll destroy the lives of your children. And still he said a big F you. He's lost more money, wealth, than you and I would ever make in a lifetime. And yet he hadn't abandoned us, has he? He's still there trying to get back in the White House, figure out who these people are that are destroying our country, so then we can just go back to an honest day of work for an honest dollar. You said, why would he do that? He's got so much money. Why does he need to do this? He's a narcissist. He wants the power. You think that man has gotten any narcissistic supply at all since the first time he rode down that elevator? Absolutely not. He has become persona non grata among the rich and famous. And yet he sticks like glue. Why? So it's quite curious, isn't it, that now the people that are doing the polls, they're telling us, they want us to believe, look at this, they want us to believe that Kamala Harris as vice president in June and July 2024, as vice president, she has an unfavorable rating of 18 point difference. Her unfavorable rating, 53.4% unfavorable, right? Until she got announced, well, until Biden experienced the beautiful new world of coups committed against him. On that day, which was the 31st, oh my golly good gee, look at there. Suddenly she drops to an unfavorable rating of 49.1. Really? So which of Donald Trump's supporters that stand out in the heat and the rain supporting him through these multiple choice crime prosecutions, which one of his supporters that are proudly walking around wearing his mugshot saying, I'd rather vote for a felon than anyone else, which one of that level of support do you believe switched allegiances to Kamala simply because she is now no longer just a VP, but is now candidate for POTUS? Do you really believe that any people who would say, I'm voting for Trump, would for even a moment just switch allegiances because now she becomes the candidate? That's nonsense. So I was looking at these polls and I was trying to make heads or tail, and I was thinking, really, you really want us to believe that people that were going to vote for Trump, that they're now saying, oh, yay, Cammie is going to be our president. We're going to have Princess Cammie. I'm going to vote for her. She's my girl. That's not real. It's illogical. It's irrational to even believe that a phenomenon like that would happen, correct? So I'm looking at all these various different polls that are on the website 538.com. I'm looking at all these various different polls, and I'm trying to think, how did we get here? How did we get to this point of dropping this far in the unfavorability ratings to to now she's our girl, right? And I noticed something really important happened way back, years ago, because the favorability rating was quite high at one time for Kamala Harris. She was at nearly 50% favorability, but then something crazy happened right here. Look at that. Isn't that crazy? Like we went from Cammie can do it. Yes, she can. If no man can do it, Cammie can. I mean, we had like cheerleaders out there dancing and singing. My eyes have seen the glory of the coming of Kamala. But then something horrible happened. Something horrible happened, and we had a dramatic switch. See that right there? I believe it was in 2021. Yes. There it was, right there. July the 27th, 2021. Oopsie, something went wrong. So I thought, well, what could it be? Like, what would have happened in this period of time here that she just, she's bumping along. She's got a favorability of 48.3. That was February 7th, 2021. 48.6. 48.8. Look at that. 48.8. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Uh-oh. 48.7. 48.6. 48.2. 48, 47, 46, right there. 45. Oh my goodness. 43, 42, 40. Holy hell. What happened, Cammie? Good gracious alive. That is amazing. We went from a 48.6 high favorability February 14th. Oh, isn't that sweet? That was Valentine's Day. That was America sending a Valentine to Cammie. What happened to go from 48.6 to 39 in a year? Who wants to guess? Anybody want to guess? You would be correct. That would be Kamala became the Border Czar. In fact, I believe, what day was it that everything started going south? I think it was March. Oh, yeah, here we go. March 24th. Okay. So March 2021, things began going south, correct? All right, so let me change. Hey, y'all hang out. Hold, please. Gonna share a screen with you. Because I said that I want to prove that, in fact, mainstream media has been lying to you. The mainstream media has been lying to we, the people. Correct? If you take note, you will see that this web page that I'm showing to you has not been manipulated or changed in any way. This is, in fact, whitehouse.gov. It is the briefing room where they post speeches and remarks by the United States president. And this speech was done March the 24th, 2021. And the next day, Kamala Harris's favorability ratings began to plummet. Interesting, correct? The comments were made at 2:14 Eastern time in the state dining room. And I want to make this a full page here. There you go. All right. And I can make it, I'm going to zoom in a little bit too, so y'all can read it a little better. All right. Remarks by President Biden and Vice President Harris in a meeting on what? Immigration. At 2:14 Eastern in the state dining room at the White House in Washington, D.C., the president said, well, folks, today I have two announcements. Count them. Two. One is we got ourselves a secretary. Xavier, welcome. And Becerra said, thank you, Mr. President. And then Biden goes on to say, thanks for being willing to do this. And I really appreciate it. And also today, I said when we became a team and got elected that the vice president was going to be the last person in the room. That would be Kamala. And shame on you if you thought about Willie Brown and being the last person in the room, getting down to business. Kamala didn't realize that that meant that she would have every assignment. But the vice president and I and all of us here have been working very hard to pass the legislation that is going to beat this virus, as well as get people back to work and change their prospects. And so she's traveling all over the country working on that, except to the southern border. And do you realize, do you know, have you even cared to know if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris offered any types of COVID treatment at all? No. It was all in place. It was all done. It was solved before Trump left the White House. In addition to Cammie traveling all over the country, there are 5 other major things that she is handling. I've asked her, the VP, today, because she is the most qualified person to do it, to lead our efforts with Mexico and the Northern Triangle. Okay, people, the mainstream media has lied. Bald face lied. Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox News, and CNN. Yes, let me read this again. This is President Biden speaking. In addition, there are about 5 other major things that I have asked Kamala Harris to handle as VP, because she's the most qualified person to do it. She will lead our efforts with Mexico and the Northern Triangle and all the countries that can help. They're going to need help in what? Stemming the movement of so many folks, stemming the migration to our southern border. Now, the very fact that I dug around and I found this little nugget of truth should at least inspire you to hit the subscribe button and the thumbs up, if for nothing else than to know that you can now speak with authority when someone says, no, Kamala was never made the Border Czar, you can say, oh, but she was. And that happened on March the 24th, 2021. And all you have to do is go to the White House official.gov webpage and read it yourself. Biden continued. And you know, back when I was vice president, I got a similar assignment from Barack Obama about one of the things we did. This is going to piss you Republicans off. One of the things that old me, Joe, and Barry did, well, we made sure that we got a bipartisan agreement, that's code word for rhino, with Democrats and Republicans to provide what? Over $700 million to the countries in the Northern Triangle to determine the best way to keep people from coming here to the United States of America. And you know what they decided? They decided, old Barry and Joe together drinking a beer, they said, you know, the very best way to keep them from coming to the United States of America is to keep them from wanting to leave their own country. So we're just going to give them a lot of money. We're just going to tell them, you keep your behind down there in Honduras, and we'll send you some American dollars. You want you down there in Belize. It's not good enough for you to live in heaven, is it? No, you want to come up here and mess our country up. So we're going to send you a ton of money and then stop your people from coming here. Have you ever heard anything so dumb in your life? This is the same kind of crap as this. Let's say that you're living in a neighborhood where things have gotten kind of rough. Your friends have had break-ins, the local teenagers are busting and stealing your television, and you and your buddies are sitting around going, oh my God, what are we going to do about these bad kids that are roaming the neighborhood and stealing everything we got? Well, then your friends, because they're geniuses like Barack Obama and Joe Biden, they get together and say, I got a great idea. Let's just find out who all of these criminal delinquent children are. And let's just go to Walmart and buy them all a brand new big ass television. Let's do a 75-inch Sony big screen to put up on their wall. That'd be great. And then we don't have to be afraid that they'll bust in our house and kill our children and steal our TV. You realize that's what they did, right? And yet, you know, people like me because, well, I was a Democrat. They just clapped. Oh my God. Oh my God, Barack Obama is so brilliant. Yes. And I was sitting there looking at my friends and I was saying, wait a minute. What do you mean? Like, okay, I must be missing it. We're going to take American tax dollars and we're going to send it to the countries where these people are coming from. And we're just going to make their lives great so that they never want to leave their countries. And meanwhile, back at the ranch, our country will be in disarray because we're not spending American tax dollars on American infrastructure. That's why y'all are clapping? Really? Like, I was confused. I didn't get it. And yet, here it is, right here, black and white. You can see it. I'm telling the truth. You see me scrolling the page. So they brag about on the White House. They didn't keep any of this a secret from any of you guys. You just didn't stop long enough to think about the reality of what the hell they were doing. So they said, we're going to give them $700 million. These little countries that haven't spent $700 million in the past 100 years, but we're just going to give it to them. They won't come. Did it work, people? Why not? Oh, well, I can tell you why. Because the reason there is such a high level of poverty in these countries is because the corrupt politicians, they're not very generous. They're in fact using political discourse and elections to enrich their own pockets. Oopsie, it seems like our own politicians must be doing the same, right, Dan Crenshaw? So the money never got to the people. All we did was paid off a criminal element. And so Biden continues. The reason why so many people are leaving, we learned, was that not only gang violence, trafficking, and cartels, but also natural disasters, hurricanes, floods, and earthquakes. People, I right now am sitting my happy ass in the middle of Texas. Well, actually, I'm on the very end of Texas, but you get my point. We have had this year alone natural disasters, hurricanes, terrific flooding, and earthquakes. We're not leaving. We're not running away with our backpacks and brand new shoes. And so it's not like someone sits around a hand-hewn table somewhere in Guatemala and says, hey, I've got a great idea. Let's sell everything we have, give the money to a coyote, have him take our kids or us to the border of #America, take us across the river and leave us in the desert. It's going to be great. That's not what they did, Barry. You were wrong. They're coming here for a reason, Joe. One of the ways we learned is this. If you deal with the problems in the country, it benefits everyone. Not if the leaders are corrupt and they keep all that beautiful, delicious Benjamin. It benefits us if people love their own countries. It benefits the people and it grows their economies there. Unfortunately, the last administration, he's talking about Trump, eliminated that funding, did not engage in it, did not use it, even though there was over $700 million to help get this done because Trump was sick of giving money to the countries that were doing absolutely nothing to stop the illegal migration of people into our country. He said, we're not stupid. You're not living up to your part of the deal. Don't send your people here if you want us to keep paying. And guess what happened to immigration? It went to the lowest levels they'd ever seen. I'm not talking about legal migration. I'm talking about illegal aliens, not from the stars. We are reinstituting our foolish, wasteful program. And as I said, there are many factors as to why people leave in the first place. But this is the source of one of the reasons why we've had such a before we took office in the midst of the last administration, somewhat draconian policies of separating children from their parents, etc. Really? He literally said, etc. What happened was that we found that there were a serious spike in the number of people heading to the southern border. Even in the midst of that, you're a liar. There was no spike. And as as Alejandro can tell you, is that was because there were serious natural disasters that occurred in those countries. They were coming to the north and we did nothing. So now it's the US's job. If there is a earthquake in South America, you are responsible for taking care of those people, according to Kamala and Joe. So this new surge that we're dealing with now, because as soon as Trump was out, Joe Biden opened the gates and said, come ye all. You don't even have to have a need. Just come on. We'll take care of you. We're going to give you a house to live in. We're going to give you money. It's all been proven. And many of them were wearing Biden t-shirts. So there was a massive surge. And that's when Kamala was made Border Czar, March the 24th, 2021. It is our responsibility to deal with this humanely and to stop what is happening. And so this increase has been consequential, but the vice president has agreed to be burdened by what has not been, to go where we haven't happened, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new lives and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one did. Well, you know the thing, right, Joe? Among the multiple other things that I have her leading, and I appreciate it, Cami has agreed to lead our diplomatic effort and work with those nations to accept the returnees. Oh gosh, that sounds like deportation, Democrat voters, and enhance migration enforcement at their borders. We're already talking with Mexico about that. She's already done that. No, Trump actually did that. And then you signed executive orders that undid all of that. So you're a liar, Joe Biden. We're going to be dealing with a full team now, that we have to be able to deal with the problem here at home, but also to deal with it now in terms of in country. Oh my goodness, Kamala becomes the vice president of 8 different countries. Oh, yay, Kamala. Cammy, she's our girl. If she can't do it, no one can. You can't say that. It doesn't rhyme. Yeah, but nothing rhymes with girl except hurl. And I can think of nobody who is better qualified to do this than a former Miss America. Oh, I'm sorry, it doesn't say that. I can think of nobody. I can think of nobody who is better qualified to do this than a former. This is a woman who slept her way to the second largest attorney general's office in America after the U.S., after the United States Attorney General in the state of California, and has done a great deal upholding Willie Brown's human member rights, but also fighting organized crime in the process. So it's not her full responsibility and job, but she's leading the effort, because I think the best thing to do is to put someone, who, when he or she speaks, they don't have to wonder about when the president is, when she speaks for me. Gosh, that sounds like a czar, doesn't it? that she doesn't have to check with me. Golly, that's a lot. That's a lot of power when the president of the United States puts you in charge and says that whatever she says, that's the same as him saying it. And she doesn't have to check with him. I think that's definition of a czar. She knows what she's doing, and I hope we can move this along. You did move it along, Joe. Oh, Cammie, she moved it right along. She opened it up. She removed all obstacles, and the illegals have moved right on into every state in the union. Their children who speak zero English have moved into every school in our neighborhoods. And the teachers now tell parents of American citizens, you are better off to homeschool your kids because half of my class doesn't speak English and I can't teach. So, Madam Vice President, thank you. I gave you a tough job and you are smiling. I'm going to guess she's laughing as well. But there's no one better capable of trying to organize this for us. And now Princess Cammie speaks. I'm going to spare you guys my impression of Kamala, okay? Just because I love you guys. Well, thank you, Mr. President, and for having confidence in me. And there is no question that this is a challenging situation, but so was Willie Brown. As the president has said, there are many factors that lead to precedent to leave these countries. I don't know what that means. There are many factors that lead precedent to leave these. What? That doesn't make any sense at all. Let's look. Okay? Because, I like words. I think words have meaning. I think we should honor their official meaning so that we don't get confused. Precedent. An earlier event or action that is regarded as an example or guide to be considered in subsequent similar circumstances. Like, if you have somebody break the law, you look back at other legal decisions and say, what have other judges said in the past? We should say that now. This sentence is nonsense. It doesn't mean anything. And while we are clear that people should not come to the border now, we also understand that we will enforce the law and that we also, because we can chew gum and walk at the same time, must address the root causes that cause people to make the trek, as the precedent has described, to come here. She is a fool. And I look forward to engaging in diplomacy with government, with private sector, with civil society, and the leaders of each in El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras to strengthen democracy and the rule of law and ensure shared prosperity in the region. We will work with Mexico and other countries throughout the Western Hemisphere. And so now the United States of America is responsible for the entire Western Hemisphere with President Cammie. And as part of this effort, we expect that we will have collar borax, collar color laxative relationships to accomplish the goals of the president, accomplish the goals, well, I also look forward to working with members of the Congress who I think share our perspective on the need to address root causes for the migration that we've been seeing. And needless to say, the work will not be easy, but it is important work. It is work that we demand and the people of our countries, I believe, need to help stem the tide that we have seen. It is work that we demand, and the people of our countries, Kamala, honey, you don't have plural countries. You have one country. You were the vice president of the United States of America. You don't have plural countries, Kamala. And the tide, well, that was because you and Joe and Barack drove the boat by and created that tide, because before you and Joe took over, it was as still as a mill pond. There was no massive integration. Donald Trump had already shut it down. So thank you, Mr. President, for your confidence in me. Thank you. I'll see you afterwards. I'll teach you all that I taught to Willie Brown, sir. Well, thank you for willing to do it, Kemi. Now we're going to get into some business. Oh, yeah, grooving on a Sunday afternoon with Kamala. All right, there you go. It's called a border for a reason, Cami. There you go. All right. By the way, Megan the stallion is a male horse. Well, you know, I wondered about that, Martian Planet Art. I wondered quite a bit about the whole Megan the Stallion. And then I just decided that the whole Megan the Stallion thing, that was like a girl power strong, right? Like that was a don't call me a mare. I'm more than my reproductive utility. I'm a stallion. I'm a stud. I'm power. That's just kind of how I took it. I don't give a lot of thought to that kind of thing. I just accept it because it doesn't hurt me. But this foolish woman is going to do some real damage. And Joe Biden, I think Joe Biden, his economic situation, it has created real damage in our nation with American citizens that it will be multi-generational to recover from. And it's hard for me to say that because I'm a Bill Clinton voter. I voted Bill Clinton. I voted for Barack Obama the first election. I am a academic who grew up in academic institutions. My friends are academics. And at some point, I just had to stop and go, this is something I don't recognize. What is happening? Why do we no longer matter? Basically, if you want to know who I am, listen to Tulsi Gabbard speak. Tulsi Gabbard was actually elected from Hawaii to be a Democrat congressman. She's a Democrat, a liberal Democrat. And she too, different than me, obviously, because she's in the pits. I mean, she was going to be like one of the rock stars in the Democrat Party. And I was 100% all in on her. And I said, this is going to be our first female president. Like, this is going to be great, right? And they destroyed her when she stood up and said, no, 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 no. Bernie Sanders is who we elected to be our candidate. Bernie Sanders is the one that the Democrat Party wants, not Hillary Clinton. And I mean, when she stood up and said, this is not democracy, you cannot steal this candidacy from the person that we elected, she was done. They stripped her of her committees. She became persona non grata. No, nobody would speak to her. This is a highly accomplished woman, y'all. Very intelligent, a military. She's the real deal. She ain't talking big. She is understated for what she actually is. And when I watched that happen, I said to myself, if they will do this to a rising star like Kamala Harris, this is not the Democrat Party that I believed in. This is not, something has happened here. Something is not right. Something's upside down. I don't get it, but something bad is happening here. Do you know that nearly every one of Donald Trump's public friends, I don't know anything about his privacy, but his public friends were all deep liberal, right? He was really, really great friends with John Kennedy, John F. Kennedy's son, best of friends. And yet the minute that he rode down that escalator to announce his presidency, they said absolutely not. And I think it's because he refused to be a part of their corrupt machine. I believe that in my heart. So I wanted to do this live today specifically to point out that yes, the mainstream media lied to the American people. They didn't even bat an eye. Oh no. You guys are so wrong. You crazy MAGA people, you were so wrong. No. She was never the Border Czar. Wrong. Now you have the truth that on March the 24th, 2021, Kamala Harris was in fact given a blank check to do whatever she wanted to do in dealing with immigration, and every step she took facilitated illegals entering your nation. That is a fact coming from whitehouse.gov. So that's it. My work here is done for today. I don't think the Kennedys would be considered label. No, I think they'd just be considered middle of the road, right? We're just middle people. We're not crazy on the left or crazy on the right. You're just trying to live, right? Trying to go to the damn grocery store and get out of there with, less than $200. We are normal Americans that are struggling in a way that I honestly don't remember ever struggling my whole life. I'm an old lady too, okay? Been here decades, okay? Century, no, not a century. I went a little too far. I will tell you this little story before I end this. My mama basically raised me, right? She was the adult woman in my family that she was the one I wanted to spend time with. She and I were big friends. Like we were buddies, right? My dad's mom. And we used to kind of tease her and joke with her because underneath her sink, there was a ball of used foil that was bigger than a basketball. Did any of you guys have grandparents that were like that, where if they had any kind of aluminum foil, they saved it, washed it, and then wrapped it around this ball, right? So you had this enormous ball of foil. And we used to make fun all the time about the ball of foil. And we were like, Mama, what are you doing? Why? She said, honey, you just don't know how hard it was for us to find aluminum foil back during the Depression. And then she'd go on and she'd start telling these stories about these crazy years of the Great Depression. The 20s were a period of time with great excess, lots of building going on. Everybody was making money. It was the roaring 20s. We were flappers. We were all having a fun time and playing it up, right? And then the stock market crashed and the people got scared and they rushed to the bank to get their cash out of the bank. And the runs on the bank became clear there was not enough money to make good on the deposits. And the country just came to a screeching halt. Businesses failed. Men that had been millionaires the day before found out that all of their money was gone. The businesses were defunct and they jumped out windows of skyscrapers in New York, splatting onto the ground on Wall Street. There was actually legislation that was put in place in the years after to avoid anything like that ever taking place again. But it took a decade or more for the recovery to happen. They spent years of abject poverty, people that had been living great middle class, upper middle class lives, and suddenly they had nothing. And it was war that basically fueled the recovery. And so during that period of time, these people that suddenly had nothing, they began realizing, hey, I only get a half a cup of sugar a week. That's all I can buy is a half a cup of sugar. So I have to save it. If today is January and we got a birthday that's coming up in June, I've got to save every single bit of my sugar so that I'll have enough to make my child a birthday cake in June. That's how bad it was. Part of it was there's no aluminum foil. There was very little iron. That the metals were being used all for the war effort and hoarded. It cost more to get it out of the ground and process it than what it was selling for. And so no one was selling it. It wasn't anywhere. And that's where the weird foil thing came from. But there was lots of shortages. It was very hard to have anything. Coffee was very short supply. Coffee, sugar, some of these commodities, they were traded like cash. They were used like money as a barter system. You think we can't go back there again? Let me ask you this. How much money do you have saved not in the bank? Because if the bank goes under, they're not going to give a damn about your $100,000 that's sitting in your checking account. Just go ask Greece. So whatever you're going to have in your pocket, that's about all you're going to have for survival for the next 10 years. This did happen before. It can happen again. It's not that it will. But we have to start expecting our elected officials to be smart. And here's what I'll say about Donald Trump. He is not my first choice. I like Ben Carson. I like Tulsi Gabbard. I like people that are educated. And I'm talking about for an elected position. I want someone that has a well-rounded education to improve comprehension of difficult problems. And what I can say about Donald Trump, he is well educated. He did go to Wharton School of Business. But here's the best thing about the guy. He knows that he's not a genius. He knows that he is not Elon Musk. He knows that. And therefore, because he knows that he's not the sharpest tack in the box, he's smart enough to know his limitations, and he surrounds himself with geniuses. He surrounds himself with smart people. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not on the I hate Trump train, because all I can see is, number one, Trump is about one of the only elections that I've seen where he literally did do what he said he was going to do. That is in short supply in the United States of American politics. That matters to me. The other reason that I'm going to tell you this right now, one of the reasons I like him, anybody, any candidate who is being targeted like he is being targeted, where there is that much passion to get rid of him, he's got to be a good guy. Because we know Nancy Pelosi is not a good person. And I believe she'd pull the trigger herself. I think she would. That's how bad I think she hates that man. Watching her up on stage, and then they ask a question about Trump, and she just starts twitching and shaking, and you're thinking, lady, why, where does this anger against this man come from? Really weird. It's really weird. So, all right. Have a huge heart for him because he loves his country and what it means to the American people. Irony, exactly, right? I mean, the guy has lost so much money, so much wealth because they're after him. And yet he doesn't quit. His children have been exposed and they have lost wealth and they have lost part of their own hard-earned accomplishments. And still he doesn't stop. It's fascinating to me that they want him out so badly. Especially after the first term, because he didn't do anything to hurt anybody. He didn't bring anybody up on charges. He didn't try to say that, somebody was a criminal, or he didn't do anything like that. So it's odd to me, but it's enough that I think, you know what? I think we know who the bad guys are just by watching what they've done to him. When in your life in the United States of America have you ever heard of a damn multiple choice crime? A multiple choice crime, and then the jury instructions say you do not have to agree on the crime? What the hell? Aren't we supposed to be true crime channel? Is there not anyone who is willing to step outside of their ideology and at least admit, yeah, that was kind of weird. Like what we know about trials and the Constitution and the rule of law, it's kind of strange that they did a multiple choice crime and then the jury instruction said a guilty verdict doesn't have to be unanimous. Absolutely unbelievable and untenable as well. We cannot allow this to stand in a nation. If the system does not work for the worst of us, it doesn't work for the rest of us. Correct? All right. Bob Woodward says Trump did nothing to make this country any better. Well, and Bob Woodward is deep throat. Oh, I thought, is Kamala deep throat or is it Bob Woodward? I'm so confused. Why would he do this? Because he loves America. DC full of Iranian sympathizers who hate America. Oh, I just read an article today where the anti-Israel group is coming hard for Kamala. I think I must have. Yeah, I must have. I thought I still might have it up. I was going to read it, but I don't have it up anymore. But yeah, I mean, and trust me, she's definitely anti-Israel, but not enough for them. They want, I mean, they're coming with pitchforks for anyone who even remotely thinks that Israel's okay. So I don't like Project 2025 at all, Grace Water, at all. I think it's a setup. I'm not altogether sure that it is what it to me, it reeks of Steele dossier. So I don't know. But Trump has come out and said that he's not backing it. Yeah, it's very extreme. Project 2025 is really extreme. If you are part of the whole MAGA movement, or as I like to say, the deplorable, I am a proud deplorable. I tell my husband all the time when I do something that irritates him, I laugh and I say, but I'm irredeemable. I like it. All right. So I'm a deplorable. I'm irredeemable. So if you're part of that Tea Party, MAGA Nation, then I think 2020, the Project 2025 is, would be like your utopia, right? That the Project 2025 would be like, yes, if we could just go back to that. But I don't think the people that I know, the people that I've met, they don't embrace it. They say, no, this nonsense. We live in a nation where half would describe themselves as conservative, the other half would describe themselves as liberal, and we got to all live together. We all have to get along. And that means sometimes there's going to be things that I don't like, and sometimes it'll be things that I will like. And that, I mean, that's the way it is with me and my husband, Bill. Sometimes I get to choose where we eat. Sometimes he chooses. Sometimes I get to choose what we spend $100. Sometimes he chooses. Nobody's angry. Nobody, I'm not plotting his death because he got to choose where we were going to eat dinner one night. That's silly. Yeah. The Biden government, sunset gazing, thank you. The Biden government, this is true, y'all. This is not nonsense. This is the reality of what's happening with the Democratic Party. My party. This is my party. The Biden administration has now placed Tulsi Gabbard on the domestic terrorist watch list. She's on the watch list. What the hell? She was a Democrat congresswoman. Do you understand that? It is incredible. Incredible. You want to know who she was supporting? She was fighting for Bernie Sanders. She was fighting for Bernie Sanders, and they removed Bernie and they inserted Hillary Clinton. And that's why they stuck a knife in her back. My party did that. The Democrat Party did that. And I sat around watching that going, okay, this is crazy. I feel like I'm in this weird kind of thriller movie, and this is all going to turn around and this is all going to be okay. Like, what the hell? It's true. True story. Tulsi Gabbard has been placed on the domestic terrorist watch list. Absolutely true. It's fact. How do you feel? How do you feel about your Democrat Party? When that I'll never forget the night that happened. It all went down at the Democrat National Convention. I was watching it, and it took me, it was so, how do I say this? It was so surreal that I kept thinking, I gotta be misunderstanding this. Like, this can't be what it sounds like. I'm clearly misunderstanding this. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, they bring her in. She gets up on the podium. She starts trying to, calm things down. She's like, simmer down, simmer down. She didn't really say that, but you got my humor now. Simmer down, Democrats. We're in charge here. Bury in the people. We're in charge. And I mean, I thought they were gonna start throwing chairs at her. Well, actually, there was a chair thrown. These were Democrats, my people. And they were saying, Debbie, you can't do this. You can't just steal our votes. We don't want Hillary Clinton. We want Bernie Sanders. This is why we have a convention, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And they would have none of it. And at the end of the night, guess who the candidate was? That's right. It was Hillary Clinton in her white pantsuit. And I trashed my white pantsuit that very next day, threw it in the trash, hadn't worn it again since. But can I say this? Tulsi is lovely. She is stunning in her white suit. So Tulsi, Ms. Gabbard, you rock that white pantsuit, my lady. Wear that red scarf. To hell with Hillary Clinton. That's what I got to say. All right. It's being said Walz is even left to Bernie. Walz is not okay. That's all. He lives in a different world than you and I do. All right. March 24th, 2021 was a double punch in the gut. It was a month after so many were hit with the effects of the winter storm Uri in February of 2021. It was devastating sunset gazing. They just kept pounding us. Over and over and over. It was a nightmare. Never want to go back to it again. And I said, if I end up without a single subscriber on my YouTube channel, I have to tell the truth about Kamala Harris and the Border Czar. I have to do that because facts matter. Words matter. Reality matters. And in the words of Barack Obama, elections have consequences. Y'all have a wonderful, wonderful Saturday night. It's Saturday night and I ain't got no money. I got to